Welcome into the non-neutral zone. It's all about football with Brandon, Josh, and producer Gunner.
Welcome back into the non-neutral zone, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with Brandon.
What up?
Oh, man, as always, it's me and Brandon. This week, it's only me and Brandon. We're going to be a two-man band today. I'm excited about it.
Sound good. Yeah, we got a good sounding two-man band. I like that.
Absolutely. So
I'll be the peanut butter to your jelly, Josh.
Good. I prefer the jelly myself.
Right.
Peanut butter's good, but you know what's one without the other, really.
Right.
So today's show, we're gonna hit a little bit of news. There's a couple things we want to talk about. We're not really gonna hit any of that underlying, non-interesting, boring stuff. You know, you might get some on these other shows. I don't know, but we're gonna hit that, and then we're gonna get you guys with our dark horse picks for the number one overall at each position for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. And when we say dark horse, it's basically guys that we think it's in the range of outcomes. They could end up at the number one of their position. It doesn't mean that we're taking them over guys that we have ranked at one.
So you're not taking your dark horse guy over Saquon Barkley?
Nope, not gonna.
I
do really like my dark horse picks.
Good disclaimer, though.
Yeah, just letting you guys know. Don't go out there thinking Josh and Brandon told you to take whoever over Christian McCaffrey, because that would be incorrect.
And Christian McCaffrey does not qualify as a dark horse. He's too white.
We're going to qualify by saying they had to finish outside the top 5 at their respective positions last season. And then we're going to use some common sense on guys like Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, because they had some injuries. They were injured for at least a quarter of the season last year. So, we're going to use some common sense there. You guys follow along with us. You want to get us into the news there, Brandon?
Yeah, let's do it.
That just happened.
That did just happen. So we had some interesting news this week. You know what? Let's start with the good. And then we'll get to the more interesting piece of news. So only 66 players opted out before the deadline that was last Thursday to opt out of the NFL season, which in retrospect is a very low number when you look at the total number that are on NFL rosters. Was there anything what noteworthy stood out to you, Josh?
Half of them were offensive and defensive linemen, roughly half of them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting and not necessary. And I think it is. I wonder if there is some kind of, maybe they got some advice from medical professionals, because by definition, and I don't mean this like in any kind of way, the frame of a human being is meant to hold up to 250 pounds, and that's pretty much it. After that, you're considered obese. So when you're large, you're at more of a risk with the COVID from what
you're technically in the high risk category.
Exactly.
That's
and
fair
I wonder if any of that has to do with those numbers being inflated at the offensive and defensive line, because those are the big guys in the league. And then the other half of the players, I think, were on the New England Patriots.
So they had a few on their defense specifically.
Yeah, 7 players. Is that right?
Yeah, it looks 7, and it looks like they are tanking for Trevor. Maybe.
Yeah, I wonder if Bill gave him a nudge.
Yeah, you know what? It's all good this year, fellas. Just take a year off.
Take a year.
We're going to develop some of our other guys. Yeah, that could be. I think that there was a large swath of kind of backup older wide receivers. I felt like there were, what used to be fantasy, not darlings, fantasy lottery tickets,
Sleepers.
Back in the day. Sleepers back in the day.
Yeah.
You had Devin Funchess was on there, Marquise Goodwin, Albert Wilson.
And like Albert Wilson, I think he's a good player. He's just never been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, he had a decent season last year in Miami. It was serviceable.
Did you say Alan Hearns? He's on that same squad.
Alan Hearns. Yeah, he's one of your lottery tickets you could pick up back in the day. He's been on your team a few times, Josh.
Yeah, here and there.
But the only real noteworthy fantasy wise, or honestly like that you probably have heard of, is Damian Williams with the Chiefs. So his was
it was early in the process too. He opted out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't know what to read into that. He could have underlying health conditions that we don't know about. But I just, to me, and this is me, sitting on my couch analyzing this.
That
It
30-second pick bothered him.
Yeah, that's it's what it felt like to me. And I don't want to. I mean, he's playing in the NFL, and I'm not. But it felt very much like it was a bit of him pouting that he didn't, like that pick.
And we really hadn't heard anything, on to the contrary or to support it. So we don't know. But, a lot of times you do have players, they get asked about it, like for there not to be any kind of feedback on that from the media makes you wonder if he kind of pled the fifth a little bit, like they asked him about it and he's like, I don't want to talk about it type thing.
Yeah.
And so, then we didn't hear any kind of backfeed. And maybe this is the feedback we're getting. So
Yeah,
maybe you're onto something there.
I could, yeah. It makes sense when you look at it. And the other thing that I would say about the list in general is that you didn't have a single quarterback opt out. And I think that you didn't have a single high profile guy opt out or even consider opting out based on what we've read or heard.
Well, now Patrick Mahomes did express some concern, as did OBJ, but it seemed like after meeting with the teams and seeing what the teams were doing with their locker rooms and their facilities as precautions to take care of the players, it seemed like a lot of those fears were alleviated. So I don't know. I think you're probably right. Like maybe some of these guys, that were, like you say, older guys, older post hype sleepers that we've been on before. Maybe it's just the end of the line for them, and they use this opportunity to take a year and reevaluate.
Yeah, and they can train all year and maybe come back even fresher and feeling younger than they are now. So,
and I just want to be clear, like Damian Williams, he's a great running back in the Chiefs system. He is not a great running back individually. So
hard to say. Hard. I don't know.
We saw him in Miami, and he wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like
in all fairness, have we seen anybody be good in Miami?
Kenyon Drake was good in Miami. He just didn't get any run.
Maybe
we saw him be a great player. I mean, there's a play in particular, Gronk pretty deep, getting made look silly.
Gronk on defense, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's head away from that was the good news that only 66 players opted out. We had a bit of I don't know, I would call it bad news if you're a Darius Geis fantasy owner, and ugly news if you just like people in general. Darius Geis was arrested for domestic violence, and soon after the arrest was made public, he was released by the Washington football team.
It had to be because it was bang bang. As soon as the news broke that he was being arrested, he turned himself in and was being arrested. It was maybe 15 minutes. There was another bing update. Darius Geis been released by Washington. So, and then you read some of the details. I've not found anything specific to it other than the fact when he was arrested, there was a count of strangulation on there. You don't really see that every day. That's not good.
No, it doesn't seem like that would be ideal.
The 3 counts of assault and battery and then damaged property, maybe a couple of those.
Yeah, I didn't actually see the police report. So that was the first, you're the first I'm hearing about the strangulation. So I'm not familiar with how they write police reports. So if there's 3 counts of assault and battery, does that mean there was 3 victims, or that would be 3 different types?
I guess
one
3
victim.
different times or types. I've not heard anything about multiple victims, especially with being domestic violence. I can't imagine there was, 3 in a room and he just curb stomped all of them, choked them all.
Well, he wasn't curb stomping them all.
So I don't really see that, but I don't know. I mean, it's not good. And with him being released, the history of his knees, maybe the end of his career, man.
It's wild because he had such high expectations from.
He's a great running back.
He's explosive. He's good. I think at some point it'll get leaked out. The video of the altercation, somehow will get leaked out. And do you think it's closer to the Kareem Hunt or Ray Rice?
Ray Rice, 100%.
I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. That was like egregious. That was awful.
Kareem Hunt got into a situation where it's bad. You can't put your hands on people. You can't kick people. I mean, he's being provoked.
He didn't
I
curb
didn't
stomp
see
her either. That was
anybody get really handled. You know what I mean? Ray
yeah.
Rice, that's one of the worst situations we've seen. And
Man, that was a
it's bad. And then
brutal
he,
video.
when he kicks her back into the elevator, like, those doors are sitting there closing and opening. It's a terrible video, and it's got to be closer to that, especially with the timing of the release. And I know that Washington is talking about wanting a better culture, and I'm sure that played a role in it. But at the same time, you're trying to win football games, and if it would have been a minor transgression, they would have taken longer with their investigation.
You would think so. So, you know what this means though, with Darius Guice being released. You know what this means, Josh?
Means the hype train is full.
It's Antonio Gibson time, man.
So he is definitely not built to be an every down back. He's not going to be an every down back, but he does have a role, and I think he would add a role either way. But it does open up more opportunities for him, as well as another season of the old man Adrian Peterson and Peyton Barber. Like, those guys are going to get some run. One of them,
the ageless Adrian Peterson,
and you gotta love that guy. Like, he is, dude. He's been a great runner. He's still a very good runner. I'd say he's better than 50% of the runners in the league right now, and he's 55 years old.
So good for him. It's gonna give him another opportunity for us to see, and this has to be his last season, surely. He doesn't run in a way that that allows him to stand the test of time like Frank Gore has. So I think,
but he has.
I don't think that he's gonna be on Frank Gore's level and still be here 5 years from now. But we'll see.
How old is he? How old is Adrian Peterson?
You just said he's 55.
Well, I know, like, Frank Gore is he's 35. How old is Frank Gore?
I don't know. You said it right as I pulled it up with Adrian Peterson. He is 35.
I think him and Frank Gore are the same age.
No way.
I believe they are.
No way. Frank Gore's 37.
Okay, so just a couple years.
He just needs 2 more years to catch Frank Gore. Good for him.
Yeah, so I mean, they're similar. The biggest difference is Adrian Peterson managed to stay healthy, minus that ACL tear that he had. Was it year 4? I think, in his career. So Frank Gore was nicked up a lot early in his career. He had some soft tissue issues, and a lot of analysts and prognosticators, the same as you and I, we were out on Frank Gore early on. He can't stay healthy. We don't want him. And then all of a sudden, he's the Iron Man. He hasn't missed a game since. So, interesting, and those guys are tough to be able to do it at that level for that long. So,
at that position.
AP is going to go a lot later than Antonio Gibson. I would like to say that. So,
he's got a bit of he's probably got a safer floor, but not as high of a ceiling.
Right. But where are you going to have to take Antonio Gibson after this?
He's got to be, like, you got to take him in the 7th or 8th round now.
He's never going to make that far. Never going to make it.
You think he's going before the 7th or 8th round?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness gracious! So he might not be on my team.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, if you're willing, you're going to have to pay the piper to get him, 100%, because you can hear it running down the tracks right now. That choo-choo train is rolling, buddy.
Just let the record show that I was doubling down on the Antonio Gibson hype train long before he even had opportunity. Like, I was a believer before the door was wide open. So
you were overpaying before you had to overpay.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say, Josh. That sums it up. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
All right. So that wraps up kind of the week of the news and what's going on. And we're getting close. We're getting very close, my friends. So we'll have some news, I imagine, in the next few weeks as we get closer to the season. But that does it for today. So let's go do a little free balling with some dark horse selections.
Free balling.
All right, let's get to it. These dark horse selections. So kind of reiterate what we're trying to do here, Josh, and you said it earlier, is we're just giving the listener some players who finished at their position outside the top 5 last year and who obviously aren't a top 5, consensus player like Pat Mahomes and like you said, but in their range of possibilities, they could finish as the number 1 player at their position. So what we're trying to give you some good dark horse. They're not even lottery tickets because they're going to be great for you regardless. But they could finish.
But they have the highest of upsides.
Yes, that's what we're looking for here, and we're going to tell you why we believe that. So
we're gonna start out with quarterbacks. You want to kick us off, Brandon? Give us your quarterback.
Yeah. So at the quarterback position, I feel like this one might be too obvious, and there's a lot of people on this train, but he finished outside the top 5 last year. But I think he has the ability to make the Lamar Jackson leap in year 2, and that is Kyler Murray. And Kyler had he finishes as the wide receiver. He'd be a great wide receiver. He finished the quarterback 7 last year, and really is a quarterback 8 because Mahomes missed some games and finished below him. But he only had 500 pass attempts, and I think you can expect that to go up with familiarity in the offense. And he only had 18 touchdown passes. So he finished the wide receiver 7. That's quarterback 7, only throwing 18 touchdown passes. And you can expect that he's gonna widen that gap between his touchdowns and interceptions. He was 18-10 last year. You can expect that gap to get wider as he's more comfortable in Kingsbury's system and as he moves there. And not to mention they've done things to improve their offense. So you got a second year at Kenyon Drake, but also they added DeAndre Hopkins, who for the past 4 years has been a top 5 wide receiver.
Oh yeah, so great weapon to come in to help him.
Yeah, so he's only gonna get more efficient. And you look at Deshaun Watson's been able to be a top 5 quarterback in his career, and he's always had DeAndre Hopkins. So Kyler Murray has the same type of accuracy, but really better accuracy, honestly, than Deshaun Watson. And now he has DeAndre Hopkins to throw to. I'm in. Just count me in. I think he has the highest upside of those guys that are outside the top 5.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's a very popular pick. I think a lot of analysts have him ranked in the top 3 at the position, top 4. He came out of college, out of Oklahoma, with that expectation that he was going to be great. He was the number 1 overall pick. Arizona decided to go quarterback 2 years in a row in the draft because they were so excited about Kyler Murray. And Cliff Kingsbury, it's well documented. He loves the guy. He recruited him, wasn't able to get him, but he recruited him during college. So their relationship goes all the way back to when Kyler Murray was in high school. So it's pretty exciting. Those Oklahoma quarterbacks in that system, they come out and they tend to do well in the NFL, especially when they're surrounded by talent like Kyler Murray is. So, and it's a very similar style offense.
He's been in. I know it's his second year with Kingsbury, but he's been in a spread, fast-paced offense for his entire career.
Yep.
And the thing that you get with Kyler Murray that you're getting with a lot of these new guys, this new wave of quarterbacks, but you're getting a lot of rushing attempts. I mean, he rushed for 91 times last season for 544 yards. He only had 4 touchdowns on the ground. I think that you're going to see his rushing numbers tick up. I'm not saying they're going to, quadruple or anything crazy like that, but you can see him get up over 120 carries. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if his rushing touchdown total doesn't jump up to 6 or 8, which just adds extra value.
How many rushes did you say?
He had 91 last year.
It's a great segue. So my pick.
Oh,
I have Mr. Joshua Allen, who had 109 rushes last year for 510 and 9 tutties. He's a big-bodied individual, built completely different from Kyler Murray. And I think the biggest difference we would say between the two is the accuracy. Kyler Murray is a more accurate passer.
Yes.
But we did see growth from Josh Allen in that regard from year 1 to year 2. 2018 as a rookie, he had a 52.8 completion percentage, and he only played in 12 games. So that's not really good, because you're talking about you're talking about he had 169 attempts, and that's how low his completion percentage
Yeah.
was. Well, then it jumped up to 58% in year 2 on I'm sorry, I lost my number there. He had 461 attempts in 2019. So he jumped up 6% in a year on his completion percentage. His yards per attempt went up. His touchdown to interception ratio was a lot better. In his first year, he had only 10 touchdowns on those attempts, which is fine, but he had 12 interceptions. Well, then in year 2,
He had a
like we
positive 11. Yeah.
yeah, like his interceptions went down to 9. He dropped 3 and he went up 10 touchdowns. So he doubled his touchdown total, dropped his interceptions, completion percentage went up. And as far as rushing goes, he had 8 touchdowns in year 1 and 9 in year 2. So
That's repeatable production. Yeah.
and
So
it's a
you're
very
seeing
safe
a
floor.
trend.
He's
Yeah.
built a lot like Cam Newton. His game is very similar. So we've seen a quarterback like him finish as a QB1 in years past, not that long ago. And they added weapons, Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. I was wondering when you were going to get to that. I thought, that was a big part of it.
It comes in. I don't think it's that big of a part of it. I think that the rushing touchdown floor is what keeps him up there and really like keeps his floor where he'll be in striking distance of that QB1 finish. But by adding Stephon Diggs, yards after the catch should be easier to come by, and that will raise those passing yards without having to raise his attempts, and gives him more opportunities around the goal line if Stephon Diggs is tackled within the 10. Whatever may happen there. So anytime you add weapons, like you said with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, you improve the quarterback's position to score. So.
Yeah, I think, and one of the things about Josh Allen is I know they drafted Zach Moss, but make no mistake about it, Josh Allen is the goal line back in Buffalo.
Yep.
And he loves it. I mean, he loves to rush the ball. I think it's incredibly dangerous. I don't think he's a smart runner. I think he takes too many hits, but
his body is built for it.
I mean, yeah, right. For now it is.
Yeah.
But he goes for it. So
and that's what I'm talking about as far as his game being very similar to Cam Newton. That's why Cam is struggling right now, because he took the punishment while he was young, and really that's what's going to get Josh Allen paid. That's why he's going to make the money, because they won games. They look good with him playing that style of football, and he knows when to run. He knows when he can score, when he can get what he needs to get. Big Ben is another similar type quarterback with what he's done, as far as standing in the pocket, being able to take those hits because he's a big guy. And I mean, he's averaging over 7 carries a game. Yeah. So that's a pretty good, safe baseline there. That's what we say. If you want to be able to get to the QB1, you need to have a rushing floor. Like, you need to have something in your game that lets you get there, get over these other guys. And the ability to run is usually what does that.
Yeah, and he didn't just have 8 touchdowns in one season, and then no touchdowns the next season.
He went up.
He's been up. One of the things that he went up, and he's stayed consistent. Like he's had 2 years of really good rushing touchdown production. So I think you can expect it'll be around that.
It sucks if you own Devin Singletary.
I mean, that's a reason why you should be apprehensive about drafting Devin Singletary, not just Zach Moss, but
I think that's what keeps Devin Singletary from being a second round pick.
Yeah.
Because if he scored touchdowns last year, he's a second round pick.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. One of the final things I'll say here about our quarterbacks is on both ends, our quarterbacks. Kyler Murray is this for sure, but same thing with Josh Allen. Like, both of them have to get rid of the ball better. Kyler Murray led the league last year in sacks. I think Arizona did some things to improve their offensive line in the offseason, which should be helpful. But Josh Allen wasn't far behind in terms of just getting sacked, and that's going to create negative plays. It's going to create negative situations.
Game script.
That's what I'm saying. So it's going to be negative in those regards. So I think that number needs to go down. In comparison, Lamar Jackson was sacked 23 times last year, and Dak Prescott was sacked 20 times. They're getting sacked, once a game.
Yeah, I think you're kind of cherry picking those two though. Like Lamar Jackson, he's not going to get sacked because he's already running the football. Like,
Yeah.
like it's game scripted that he's going to drop back if his look's not there. He's running. Dak Prescott has a great offensive line. So his, what I'm saying, like those two right there, those are kind of cherry pick situations. And I'm not saying they don't take too many sacks, but they're also young quarterbacks that are learning.
Yeah, I think that's probably a bigger deal about it, is just learning as a young quarterback to get rid of it and when to move on so you don't turn into a negative game script situation.
Yeah. So who do you have at running back, Brandon?
Well, obviously I've got Alvin Kamara. He finished outside the top 5. I'm just kidding. I couldn't pick. I could pick Alvin Kamara, but
injuries kind of played a role in that.
Right. And he's being drafted in the top 5 so, in a lot of cases, whether you like it or not.
Well, he's definitely top 5 at his position in the draft.
Right. So, yeah, true. So I didn't pick him, although I kind of wanted to, just to hear your counterpoints so I could learn a little bit. I'm going to go with Nick Chubb. He was running back 7 last year on an incredibly dysfunctional team. He led the league in the first 16 games in the actual fantasy season. He led the league in rushing yards, but he only had 8 touchdowns. He caught 47 balls, so he was targeted 47 times, caught 35 balls. So he's not super duper heavy in the passing game, but like he's going to be in an offense now with Stefanski and just with the kind of the Cleveland Browns makeover.
They're going to run that ball.
They want to run the ball. I don't know that they want to pound the rock in the same way that the Titans do, but they want to run the ball. They're going to move to that's the way they want to control the clock. And so that's the offense they're going to move to. And that's going to benefit Nick Chubb, and I'm high on Kareem Hunt. I love Kareem Hunt, and I'll draft him on a lot of my redraft teams because I think that his ceiling is very high too, because I think that they'll play both of them. He has a role, but I think that based on the way the offense is going to run, Nick Chubb he's set up for success because his touchdown, we talk about regression to the mean. Well, he's going to have progression to the mean. So at 8 touchdowns is what he had last year. And I think that you're going to see that. I don't know about double, but you're going to see it grow by.
You're going to see a lot of growth there because, not to interrupt you, but I remember watching games last year, and there were times when he went in at the goal line from the 1 and got stuffed, 3 times in a row, and it was happened more than once. So that's not going to happen every time. There's going to be regression to the mean, like you say, positive regression to the mean. So and he's going to need those touchdowns to come up to finish as the RB1, but I think that's entirely possible. And like what I was saying with Josh Allen, Nick Chubb with a healthy OBJ and a full season of Kareem Hunt, they should be around the goal line more. So it should increase those opportunities, similar to what is going to happen for Josh Allen bringing in Stephon Diggs. So I think it's a good pick, and go Dogs. Love that.
I knew you would like that one. And have you seen his workout videos, man? That's got me convinced.
He's a monster.
He's just working out like a dog, man. Just
like a Georgia Bulldog. I'm a fan. I like him. I think he's a great player. Like I said, I believe the touchdowns do come up. You're not going to get stuffed when you're Nick Chubb. You're not going to get stuffed that many times in a row, year after year after year. It was just bad luck. Yeah. So
good pick. Who do you have, Josh?
I got Miles Sanders, Mr. Miles Sanders, the Philadelphia Eagles.
I like Miles.
He was RB14 in 2019, but it's important to remember, he told away behind Howard.
Jordan Howard.
Yeah, Jordan Howard. I want to call him Jonathan Howard for some reason, but I knew that wasn't right, so I just called him Howard. Mr. Howard got most of the work for a lot of the season,
especially early on in the season. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of that is just kind of Doug Peterson's kind of an old school coach and when I say that, I just mean as far as rookies, pass protection, not really wanting to put them out there. And he had a little bit of a fumbling issue early on and in college, but it seemed like he got that worked out as the year went on. And then Jordan Howard had some kind of an injury. Really was never disclosed to us. I never heard any kind of official injury report, I guess you'd say, but diagnosis is the word I was looking for there. No
Okay.
official diagnosis of what the injury was, but once he went out, once he was injured, Miles Sanders took off, and man, I mean, even on 179 rushes and 50 receptions, that's what he had last year, 229 touches. I mean, that's a decent baseline, and that's just in the partial work that he had. He had 5.8 yards per touch and 6 total touchdowns. Jonathan Howard's not there.
Jonathan Howard's definitely not there, but neither is Jordan Howard.
There you go. And so, he's not coming. He's not coming back. And what's your boy's name over there?
In Philadelphia?
Yeah, the running back.
Darren Sproles?
No, his brother.
Oh, Smallwood.
Yeah, no.
Oh, Boston Scott.
Boston Scott. There we go.
So we'll get to him.
Boston Scott. He's not going to infringe on Miles Sanders.
I mean, he's gonna have a role. Yeah.
But he's not going to take anything away from Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders was great. He shared the backfield with Saquon Barkley at UConn, and that's really the only. Penn State. Penn State.
Man, come on,
I'm waking up here, people.
Yeah.
So at Penn State, he shared the backfield with Saquon Barkley. Saquon says he's a great back. Not as good as Saquon.
Right. Well, not as good as Saquon. In the last quarter of the season, so from weeks 12 to 16, Miles Sanders was running back 4, only behind Saquon, Calf, and Zeke.
Yep.
So that's the once he got the role in there, and you got Kenyon Drake and Derrick Henry in there too, and on a points per game basis. But like that.
Let's be fair, their wide receiver room was decimated. There was nobody to spread the field.
Right, so that they were stacking the box like easily.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's running against unfavorable situations, but that's the company that he's in. So that tells me that when given the opportunity, we'll see how it happens over a full season. But when given the opportunity, in his range of outcomes is to be around those that group of guys. Yeah, those top kind of segment of guys. So I like that pick. I like that offense to get a lot better this year, which should only improve Miles Sanders' stock.
And one last point to kind of fuel the fire, but Deuce Staley, the running backs coach there in Philadelphia, dude, he's being his hype man. He is 100%. He's saying, they want to get him 15 touches out of the backfield as a runner, and then 5 or 6 as a receiver every single game. So if you're getting 21 touches,
it's 300 touches a season.
You're right there with the elite. And Deuce Staley in the interview, that was last week, in the interview, he kind of propped it up because he says he wants to get him 15 touches, and then almost immediately he's like, well, we want to get him 15 touches as a runner. We also want to get him some receptions. And so that's a guy that intends to use Miles Sanders. And they're going to, like I said, I think they wanted to bring in a veteran early in the process, and it didn't happen. And now they're going to lean in on Miles Sanders. Look, you're the guy now. You have to shoulder this workload. And if he gets that 300 touches, dude, sky's the limit.
With just opportunities, abounds. One of the things that you could say about goodness gracious, I have to edit that out. I got distracted. But so that was gonna move on. We'll just move on to wide receivers.
What were you looking for?
I was looking at his fumble stats. He only had 1 fumble, but I got distracted. I have no idea. I'm told I've got all this information regurgitating, and I started thinking about Todd Gurley, and it got me all flustered. So,
oh man, I thought about Todd Gurley, but go ahead.
No, that's fine. He'll be in our honorable mentions. Let's head over to.
So Miles Sanders, as my running back that I think that can make the leap. But we can move on to wide receivers. Brandon, Who do you have?
I want to know who you have, Josh.
I've got Allen Robinson. Good old A-Rob.
What team does he play on?
The Chicago Bears. The Bears.
Okay.
One thing you want in your wide receivers, in your quarterbacks, in your tight ends, you want them on offenses that may be playing from behind, trying to catch up. Their defense is good, but I think they've lost a little bit of their luster. They're a little bit older. And their offense, I don't think it's going to be good enough to let him have leads. And Allen Robinson, when he's been healthy, he's getting 150 targets in a season. Like
Yep.
that's kind of his baseline. And that's with the elite. That's with the top of the class at wide receiver. And ACL injuries and bad quarterback play, it's kind of given him a bad I wouldn't say a bad rep, but I think people have actually gotten smarter and they know that, like his stats don't actually reflect his play because he played with Blake Bortles and then he's played with Mitch Trubisky. Like I said, he had the ACL tear a few years ago. And then last year was his first healthy season coming back. And I mean,
He
it
had
was great.
142 targets. I mean, I agree. I mean, he was a wide receiver 1, so that's great.
It was great considering he plays on the Bears
right,
with Mitch Trubisky.
Right, yes.
And this year, I think he's going to have improved quarterback play if it's Mitch Trubisky or if it's Nick Foles, because Trubisky's going to be driven to play better because there is somebody behind him that can take his job. And if Foles beats Trubisky, that means Foles was better than him in camp.
Yeah.
So
there's no way the quarterback situation can be worse. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I still for the exactly what we're saying. That's why I'm concerned about Allen Robinson as, in his realm of possibilities being a wide receiver 1 is the fact that he plays on the Chicago Bears. And they're it just seems, I don't know that they seem dysfunctional in the same way that the Cleveland Browns seem dysfunctional, but it just seems like they can't get it together. They just can't figure it out. And I think that it has a lot to do with their quarterback play and their just a quarterback situation.
Right, and we've addressed both of those things there, where we both believe the quarterback play is going to be better. It's still not going to be great, but it's going to be the best that he's played with. And then and then if you put on the Bears were not good last year; they were terrible, and we've already said he was a top 10 wide receiver. So if they can get a little bit better, the quarterback play gets better, that could project him into that
top position.
Yeah.
So he had 142 targets last year and only 89 receptions.
Mm-hmm.
That's strikes me as
a lot of inaccuracy
as an erratic path. Yeah, so it has to get better. Like, so if that number just gets a better catch percentage,
if he can get into that
catchable ball percentage,
upper 90s in terms of receptions,
yeah,
he does a lot with the ball in his hands, and he's good as a contested catcher. So I mean, you're going to look at more first downs, more touchdowns, and more yardage if he can just get 10 more receptions.
Yeah. So for me, I've got Amari Cooper as my guy.
I thought about him.
I see. I'm picking all your guys. I know you love Nick Chubb. I know you love Amari Cooper. And I've done enough mock drafts with you. I see you're getting a lot of shares of Amari Cooper in redraft, it seems.
And he's just such a value right now.
He is. So, I think that he only had 114 targets last year. I think that to be the wide receiver 1, that needs to go up by 40 or 50. I mean, he's got to get more targets.
Well, go ahead. I'll let you finish, and then we'll talk about it.
Yes. Yeah, but with that, so he finished as wide receiver 9 last year on only 75 receptions. So I'm all about. I love that efficiency, and that's great, and I love that. But he only scored 8 touchdowns, which is kind of middle of the pack and fine. So that could go up a little bit. I don't think it's going to double by any means. But in the history of Mike McCarthy playing with coaching Aaron Rodgers, and this could be either a Mike McCarthy thing or an Aaron Rodgers thing, but every year Aaron Rodgers under Mike McCarthy would pepper his number 1 wide receiver. And so I don't know if it was scheme or if that was just Aaron Rodgers. Like I said, there's no way to tell until we get some more data of Aaron Rodgers with a different coach and Mike McCarthy with a different quarterback. But he had the ire. It was Jordy Nelson at one point, and then it was Devontae Adams. And before Jordy Nelson, it might have even been Greg Jennings. It goes back forever. But, he just signed that huge contract. So they're going to run him and use him. They want to use their shiny new toy. And I think you can expect the targets to go up, and with that, like he would move up the list because I think he's going to be in a more advantageous position based on the weapons that they added on offense. That should give him some more open opportunities, some big play possibilities.
So, only thing I'll say, I wanted to stop you when you were talking about Cooper's targets being low, but there were games he wasn't healthy last year during the middle of the year, and toward the end. In those games, he was basically a decoy. He really didn't get any targets. So, and we can look back at his game log and pick those games out, but there were several where he was,
I remember.
Yeah. So that's what I'll say about the targets. I think the targets do go up by necessity. I mean, they paid him $100 million this offseason.
Yep. So they're going to, and what they do to Michael Thomas? They paid Michael Thomas last offseason, and Drew Brees peppered him like crazy.
149 catches. Broke my boy Marvin Harrison's record. Marvin Harrison's a better player. Number one target, as far as you were talking about Aaron Rodgers. Can you name those off for me again? Let's see. It was Jordy Nelson,
Devontae Adams. I feel like it was Greg Jennings before that. I don't remember if that was with Mike McCarthy though.
Yeah, but what do all those players have in common? They're great.
They're not as good as Amari Cooper,
but they're great players.
Yeah,
they're great players. Yeah. And so, I would target those guys too. So I think the targets go up. I think Amari Cooper's a great target, but I don't think that it's necessarily going up just because of McCarthy. It's an interesting point that you highlight, but I think that that's due to the quality of receiver that was outside, and Cooper could be better than any of those, like you say.
It could also be indicative of the other receivers that Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay had during that time. That time, I think the supporting cast in Dallas is much better.
Well, when Greg Jennings was there was another guy there that was really good, and I'm trying to remember his name, but I'm failing once again.
Was Randall Cobb there then, or was that before Randall Cobb?
That was with Jordy. Okay, and Randall Cobb was great while he was with Green Bay early on in his career, especially. His first play was a return touchdown to the house on a kickoff return as an NFL player. But yeah, so I think it's a good pick. I'm a big Cooper fan this year. I think if you go running back in your drafts, and then you can get Cooper, I think you're getting a guy that can finish as the wide receiver one, and you're putting him with two great running backs. I just think it's good for roster construction. Yeah.
So I'd like to, as we move on to tight ends, I'd like to take a guess at your tight end that you're going to pick, Josh, if I may.
Bet you won't get it.
I feel like if you've been listening to the non-neutral zone, that I think we're all going to guess the same guy, and I'm going to guess that you're it's not sleeper. Your dark horse candidate is Mike Gesicki.
You're wrong.
Oh,
unless you're right, which of course you are. So Mike Gesicki, he finished as tight end 11 last year, and he really only got to run those last 5 or 6 games. Like he was, I've been highlighting all off season that he's a great athlete. He's a great player. I'm not going to waste your time with that. He did have a little mini breakout in the later half of the season last year after injuries forced him into more significant duty. So he only started 5 games. Guess what? He scored 5 touchdowns. It's a year 3 for him. We talk about that year 3 breakout for tight ends. This is the year, and he's experienced that mini breakout already. We talked about how the injuries to the wide receivers forced him into duty last year. Well, guess what? No Albert Wilson, no Hearns. They're gone. They opted out. Preston Williams should be back.
Devontae
Parker should be there. They need him. They need that guy in the slot. And I think they call on him. He's going to show up because he is a great player. He's a great athlete. And like I say, 5 starts, 5 touchdowns, year 3 breakout. There's really nobody else outside of those 2 wide receivers. So I'm in on him, man. I am. I'm afraid that his ADP may get out of control. I may not be able to get him as often as I would like because of the opt-outs. But if it stays around where it is, I'm good.
It's wild that his ADP hasn't risen because I know that you're not the only one that's on the Gesicki hype train. But you can still get him, in the 11th, 12th, 13th round.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to have to take him in the 9th or 10th by the time drafts.
I'm surprised that you're still able to get him there in the mocks that we're doing.
I want to be clear though. I will take him in the 9th or 10th round.
Yeah, unabashedly.
Yeah, I'll grab him.
It'd be interesting sprint there because I know that there's there's a lot of people that are in our circle who are also high on Mike Gesicki. So we'll see if you're able to get him, how high you actually have to draft him to get him on your roster. So sort of like we were talking about with Miles Sanders from weeks 12 to 16 when Gesicki really took over. He was tight end 6 during that time. So he was just behind Mark Andrews, Higbee, who really had a crazy back half of the season due to a couple games. George Kittle, Zach Ertz. So he was in that group of guys there, and shows what he can do. And here's what we know about Miami in the past. I don't know if it's going to be the case this year because New England sucks again, and the Jets aren't exactly banging it down. But the Miami traditionally has played from behind. So I think that they're going to be a better team this year. I don't know how that bodes for, the game script for them throwing to their tight end. But it's just a thought that they won't have that garbage time.
Well, I will say though, when you are able to manage a game, a lot of times your scores happen more often from the red zone. Yeah. And he's a good red zone threat. He's a big bodied guy. He's fast. He's elusive. So I think it increases his opportunities to score because he's not a game breaker. That's actually one thing that's kept his ADP down. Is he's not like George Kittle in after the catch. Twitter has kind of drug him over the coals a little bit, I guess you'd say, for not being that great after the catch. But a lot of that's just luck, where were you? Where was the ball when you caught it compared to the defender and all that stuff. But I think it plays to his advantage that they're a better team because they will be in the red zone more.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I for my tight end, I have a hard time picking a tight end.
I bet I can guess yours.
I'll let you go ahead and guess because I don't know if you can. I'll let you guess.
Okay, Blake Jarwin.
He was on my list. I felt like, in his range of possibilities, I just couldn't see tight end 1 being in his range of possibilities.
Good. So I'm glad you couldn't see that.
So I couldn't pick him. And what I was going to say, so yeah, gotcha. What I was going to say is I think that, your tight end 1 will come from one of your top 5 tight ends from last year, which were Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Ertz, and Waller.
Golly, you think it's in the range of outcome for Waller?
Well, I think it's going to come. He was in the top 5 last year.
Okay,
so he happened to be listed in that category. Yeah, so I have trouble, thinking that one of these guys outside the top 5 is going to jump him. And so what we're trying to give you as a listener are some guys who we feel like that is in their range of possibilities. So I just want to make it clear. This one was probably the toughest one because I just feel like there's a clear gap between that top tier and then the next one. But I'm going to go with Jonnu Smith on my Tennessee Titans. And
he's a good player.
Sort of, he's a good athlete. Like you said with Gesicki, he's going into his 3rd season. So what that is for tight ends is we see him break out. And it's really only his 2nd season because the first year he was he's been sitting behind Delanie Walker or the corpse of Delanie Walker. And he really got a chance last year to sort of break out and develop some chemistry. And, if you on the season, he only had 35 catches. Of those 35 catches, 8 of them went for more than 20 yards. So that tells me he's a big play guy. They're finding him in the seam. He's got some yards after reception possibility with him. And I think that you want that if you're looking for a guy who has, tight end 1 in his range of outcomes.
Well, let's be honest too. I mean, he's legitimately the number 2 option in the passing game. Derrick Henry's not catching balls. Corey Davis has never caught any balls. So, I mean, it's AJ Brown and then it's Jonnu Smith. I don't think there are a lot of targets to go around. I think they're still a run heavy team, but he's still the number 2 option in the passing game.
Yeah, so that's why I'm hesitant to see him in the possibility as a tight end 1 because he's in such a run heavy offense. But you see George Kittle, who's in a
Well, here's the
runner.
thing with these
run heavy.
guys. Here's the thing with these guys. Volume is going to lean to the favor of Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, but touchdowns are going to matter a lot at this position. The tight end position, the one that scores the most touchdowns is going to be up there at the top. So these guys, Gesicki and Jonnu, because of the lack of targets on their team, when they get in the red zone, they have the opportunity to score.
Yeah.
Kittle has to compete with nobody, but then you've got Kelsey, who has to compete with everybody. And so I think there's an opportunity. And then Mark Andrews, of course, has to compete with Lamar Jackson running the football. So
that's a good point. And I think that at tight end, like it matters less about the, necessarily the offense that they're in because of what you're saying, because touchdowns are going to matter so much. But whenever it's in a run heavy offense, that tight end's always like Johnny's a guy who's always going to be in the field, just like Kittle. Like he's a in line, he's blocking, he's ready, and he's going to
always on the field. A lot like Hawkinson. His injuries have they kind of dampered some stuff this offseason for him. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's not looking great for Hawkinson.
Really? So I thought he was going to get over it and he was just going to miss first couple weeks. Is it looking
that's what everybody was kind of thinking, but it looks like he may start on the pup. I'm not sure.
But not the pup.
Yeah, not the pup. But yeah. So what you said, tight end was the hardest for you to pick here?
Yeah, I think so. Just because I feel
for
like
me, it was wide receiver. I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, any of them are hard because these guys are at the top for a reason, and what we're trying to figure out or, project is who's going to break through that ceiling that's been there and break through into that crowded group of upper echelon guys to be the top dude, And it's all speculation, obviously, but there's a reason that DeAndre Hopkins has been in the top 5 for the last 4 years, Antonio Brown was on top of the game for.
Well, that's what I was going to say is running backs. It seems like there's a changing of the guard so often because of the nature of that position. It's easier to pick a guy that you think could be the number one because we see it almost every year where, somebody slips into the top 5 that we weren't expecting because of, just the nature of that position, people getting banged up and NFL, when you're a running back, stands for not for long. So,
right.
But with quarterbacks and wide receivers, even tight ends, once they get up there, tight ends is because it's a thinner position, I believe, because they're used differently across the NFL. Some offenses don't pass the ball to the tight end. Some of them use them as blockers exclusively.
Yeah.
But with wide receivers, they're going to get the ball and they play for a long time. Quarterbacks, they're going to throw the ball and they play for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, for me, running back was the easiest and wide receiver was the hardest. But
so let's as we kind of put a bow on this, why don't you give me an honorable mention at each position, just so that there's a little bit of depth in there. We don't need a super long explanation, but did you have honorable mention at quarterback?
Sure, yeah. So quarterbacks, I looked at nobody else. I had pretty much Josh Allen, and I thought about Kyler Murray, but I like you said, I thought he was a little bit of an obvious pick.
Yeah, I feel like he's obvious, but he was outside the top 5, so I took that low hanging fruit in that regard.
Yeah. So and at wide receiver, my number one option, actually, I had Amari Cooper, Odell Beckham Jr., and then Allen Robinson, and all 3 of those guys are elite, as far as talent goes. So I think all 3 of them have had some bad luck. Tight end, Mike Gesicki was my only option.
Yeah, I believe that.
But at running back, I did have several. I had Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Todd Gurley, and essentially went with Miles Sanders due to youth and less injury concern. The other 2 have kind of been nicked up. So
so I had Todd Gurley was my on my next up for running backs, and then Kenyon Drake.
Well, he was the RB1 year before last, so it's very
it's wild. Well, that's the thing too. You for wide receiver, you had who'd you say you had? Cooper?
Odell Beckham.
Odell Beckham was the number 1 wide receiver, just a couple, or maybe was he number 1
3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill was number 1 2 years ago. So
okay. So, but anyways, Odell's like been to the top. That would have been a kind of a fun, spicy pick.
I just couldn't do it with the lack of projected passing work that I have for the Browns.
Yeah.
It's just hard for me to envision him being the number one. I think he can be top 5, but I don't see him being number 1.
I agree with you. And at quarterback for me, my backup quarterback or whatever, second one was Aaron Rodgers, and I think that has a lot to do with just the second year with developing some chemistry with LaFleur and having something to prove with all that they drafted. Yes, just spot. I mean, I just think he's going to check out of a lot of runs, and because at the end of the year, everyone's human. Like we're not robots. Like we're able to think, and these quarterbacks and players are smart, and they know that their stats matter. And at the end of the year, if he can say, man, I threw for 45 touchdowns, and
I mean, that's how they set their goals.
Yeah. Like, so, I think that could cause him to maybe do a quarterback sneak on the goal line just for fun, just so he can get the stats.
Well, Aaron Rodgers, too, he seems like the kind of guy that he hears what the media says, and he probably, he's got a grease board, he's got a whiteboard, whatever. He writes it up there, like what they said, and he just uses it kind of like a Michael Jordan type deal where he just uses all this media as fuel, so when he goes into a game, just lights out to prove somebody wrong. And so I could see that. I'm not super high on Aaron Rodgers, but I think that's why he's probably going to do great because a lot of people aren't super high on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and you could say Tom Brady would have been a in vogue pick just because he's not had the weapons. But I just didn't want to build that case or argument.
When was the last time he was QB1? Like
he's been around for a few years, but he was quarterback 1 at one point in his career.
I think with Randy Moss, I think that was the last time he was QB1.
Well, now he's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, man. So I'm not saying Mike Evans is Randy Moss, but
he's also, 10 years older than he was then?
No, I think he's even older than that. I think Randy Moss was like 07 or 08. Yeah. Goodness gracious.
So there you go.
Oh man. So hopefully that's helpful for the listener, for you guys. If we miss someone or you think that you have an idea for I keep wanting to call them post-hype sleepers, but that's not even close to what we're talking about. We'll
give us your pick for your dark horse.
Yeah, give us your dark horse picks. Hit us up on Twitter or on the Facebook, and let us know.
I do want to add, we're not going to have a short show this week. Don't be looking for that on Wednesday. Since there are only 2 of us this week, we did not do a short show due to the ridiculousness of a draft with 2 people. And so thanks for listening. Be sure to hit us up on the Twitter at Non-Neutral Zone 1. Find us on Facebook. Just look up Non-Neutral Zone. You can email us at nonneutralzone@gmail.com. That's Brandon. And I'm Josh. We're out.
See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe wherever you listen and don't fall into the neutral zone.